Hey guys, it's Sleepy Reader. I think this is Sleepy Vlog number 13, I believe. Not absolutely sure. I'm still sick. This is crazy. I've been in one way or another sick for 2.5 weeks. I've been to doctors twice at my wife's urging each time, and may or may not have got anywhere with those doctor visits. So anyway, I'm going to persevere. I may cough, or my voice may be sort of a bit of a struggle. But, at first I was sure it was just asthma, and then it seemed to be maybe bronchitis, maybe pneumonia, maybe something else. I'll never really know. Excuse me. So anyway, I got a number of things I wanted to talk about, in my rambling vlog way about comic book things I've been up to. One is, I mentioned at Christmas I got a new iPad, and this one, has cameras. So I never had a smartphone because I'm just not that into phones. But now with this, I can do the Marvel AR. Those little AR symbols all over the... there you go. Nice cough. All over all the Marvel comics these days. So probably lots and lots of you have already played around with those. But I hadn't. And last night I finally gave it a shot. And I was having the hardest time. I was holding it up like this, holding it, real close to the comic book, or a little further away, tilting it this way and that way to get the light to go. Because it really doesn't have anything on it that gives you a clue when you're doing the right thing. It just shows you the image of your comic book. And then I got one or two to work, and then I kept getting this ghost image out of Captain America of this panel drawing by John Romita Jr. Just sort of tilted on the side of my app, which was really weird because it was for any comic book I was trying it on. And then finally I was trying the AR thing on an Avengers, and suddenly up pops Dan Slott and Spider-Man. And what it was is that the Spider-Man was down on the floor, and I had the comic book that I was trying to get up on the desk, and the little bit of the Spider-Man on the floor was what registered. Anyway, I now know how to make the ARs, pretty much all of them, work on my iPad, which is I put the comic book down on the floor, way down there, and go like that. And you would think it would be way harder for it to read, but that way, it reads it fine. And then I got to see all of the mostly pointless ARs. It can be a little fun when they show you they'll show you a page going from pencils to inks to colors, and that's kind of fun. And occasionally a message from Jonathan Hickman bullshitting you that this is the most important comic book he's ever done, or more honest kind of stuff from Mark Waid. So I don't know if I'll bother at all with ARs in the future now that I've done it. Probably sometime when I have nothing else to do with my time. So to most of you, that's probably not news. I was also thinking a lot about how, when it comes right down to it, I like infinitely ongoing series is the best. Even though really it's not the ideal form of storytelling, because you never finish things never really complete, and a character's story can't really go on forever. But I've noticed that, like, when I'm looking for new, Image Comics keeps pumping out new issues. Brand new number ones, and I'll see it, and it'll be one of 6, and I'll decide, maybe someday I'll get that in a trade. But if it's an ongoing, if it doesn't say it's a limited series, I scoop it up, especially if it's a $2.99 book. In general, I think, along with how much I love the comic book medium, I also like these kind of never-ending stories. And I really thought about that as I read Punk Rock Jesus issue 6 and before Watchmen Minutemen issue 6. Both of these were miniseries that I thought were really great. I would give them, make them 5-star series, especially Punk Rock Jesus. I might have called it the miniseries of the year. I still might stand by that. But issue 6 was quite disappointing, and it felt rushed. The real story of Punk Rock Jesus, which you're sort of confirmed by this final issue, is the story of, now I can't remember his name. The guy who'd been in the IRA, who was the Jesus guy's bodyguard. Thomas, I guess his name is. So this is really wrapping up Thomas's story. But it's kind of rushed in here. It felt like it needed at least 2 more issues to be done justice to. But no story, well, I shouldn't say no, but like when I read novels and lots of other things, the ending is rarely as satisfying as the journey. So with a series comic book, you get a bum issue or an issue, but the journey is going to continue on. And if you like that character, if there's good creators on it, chances are there'll be more good issues. So, but with Punk Rock Jesus, kind of a issue, and it's the last issue, it takes the air out of the whole experience to a certain degree. I'd still highly recommend getting Punk Rock Jesus when it comes out in trade. It's some of the best comic book art out there. It's totally amazing comic book art, in fact. And it's a very good story that just ends a little sloppily. But probably there was no way to have as satisfying an ending as the journey to the ending. And I felt Minutemen by Darwin Cook, this last issue was a bit of a disappointment too, and he had kind of some clever twists, but also it just felt like, well, he's quickly throwing in this clever twist to wrap things up and bring things back to a status quo, a la what we already know from the Watchmen. So he's told us a dark and seedy tale with his beautiful, beautiful artwork, but it's wrapped up in a hurry, with kind of told in narration rather than in fully blown out story. Maybe if he had another 2 issues, he would have done a better job. But even better, from my perspective, would be a never-ending comic book about superheroes by Darwin Cook. So there is something to be said, because I kind of I'll sneer at Spider-Man, for instance, because it's just been around forever. I've been there, done that, and I'm moving on. But I do, in the end, when it comes to the end of the day, I like to know this story is just going to keep going and going and going. That's my favorite thing. I even feel that way with TV shows. Like some of my favorite TV shows are Buffy and Angel, because those just felt like they kept going forever, and they felt like they would keep going after their final episodes. And there's just something really satisfying about that to me. So I just thought I'd throw that thought out there. So if some of the people who like to do reviews in trades end up reading either of these in trades, I wonder if they'll feel the same way about the endings I did. Because the other thing is, when you're reading issue by issue, it's very exciting and addictive to see what's in the next issue, what's in the next issue. But if there's a weak point, if the issue is weak, it's highlighted more. In a trade, the weak points may be balanced out better by the strong points of a book. So anyway, that's that. And there's a lot of good-looking stuff that's limited series. And I do realize subconsciously I tend not to buy the limited series. I remember a long time ago when comic book companies first started doing limited series, that seemed very exciting to me, but there weren't trades back then. And the idea of a story with a beginning and an end, and kind of, it felt like they put everything into this 4-issue or 6-issue miniseries, was very exciting once upon a time. But now, maybe with trades and everything, it makes the miniseries less appealing. Okay, moving on. At last, a new issue of the Jack Kirby Collector. But some of you may notice, I should have gotten an older Jack Kirby Collector to show you. The Kirby Collector's gone through a radical size change from there to there. And it really makes a difference with the reproduction of the art. The paper also feels cheaper on the newer Kirby Collector. And this one was $9.95, and this one is $10.95. So they do try to make up with it with color pages, which immediately fell out. They have 4 color pages, or 2 pieces of paper with color on them. And what they reproduced is kind of odd, because they reproduced these black light Kirby drawings, Kirby posters. I don't know if black light will work if it's just printed on paper, or I think it needs that felt and everything. But I guess if I can dig up an old black light, I can try it out. I still think the Kirby Collector is worth it. There's so much good stuff, and I guess they upped the page count. So it's about 100 pages. What was the old one? The old one was 80 pages, and they're almost twice the size. Let's see, are they twice the size? Not quite. But it's cheaper paper. The cover stock is cheaper. I still think this is worth $11. I mean, nowhere else are you going to get a magazine like this that's just totally devoted to the history and the thought and saving the artwork of a truly great artist. But I don't know, is there a Pablo Picasso collector? Is there a magazine that is devoted to Pablo Picasso this way? I'm sure he appears in lots of academic art history magazines, but just for people who love Pablo Picasso. I mean, Jack Kirby has engendered this love that perhaps no other artist in history has amongst the people who are aware. So I might even write a letter to the Jack Kirby Collector telling them, hey, I'd be happy to pay $15 if you go back to your old way of doing things. And if you have any interest in Jack Kirby and you see, because I find the old Jack Kirby collectors just randomly lying around sometimes at some comic book stores. If you see them anywhere, grab them. I mean, you're not going to get anything else like this. 10 or $11 for this beautiful piece of comic book history. So anyway, yeah, there's that. Another thing I wanted to talk about, which I should have talked about earlier, was the results of my Christmas contest. But it wasn't a contest. It was a giveaway, I guess. It was a Christmas gift. And my thinking at the time was, this community is really an important part of my weekly life, and I'd love to give presents to all my most regular viewers, but I don't think I can afford that. So what I did is, at the end of one of my vlogs, a few days before Christmas, I said, if you've listened all the way through, so you're hearing this, write down Merry Xmas Damien in the comments, and I'll do a drawing to give away some presents. And in the end, I decided to draw. I had 24 people who did that. So it was a very short time frame. A lot of people wouldn't have even gotten to hear the vlog yet. But my idea was, it's a gift. I don't have to worry about the ages of people or whatever to give them a gift. Contests may be different, and I wasn't promoting my channel because it was buried at the back of a video. So it was just about giving a gift, and I was kind of, how that late Christmas season is, you're frustrated with trying to find gifts for people, you have no idea what to get them. And it really was such a joy to go out and buy comic books for people that I know something about what they like, and buy something that I know a lot about for them. And it turned out really well. All the people who ended up being the numbers drawn do videos, and they all did videos about their gifts. I'll put the links down below. And I rewatched some of their videos, but just to sharpen my thinking about what they like. And so I gave Travis Oddfellow Thoughts the 10-issue run of Omega the Unknown by Steve Gerber and Jim Mooney, and the 2 issues of The Defenders that a few years later finished the Omega storyline. I think those 2 issues were kind of a letdown because they weren't written by Steve Gerber. But anyhow, to give him the complete run, because I felt, one, I wanted to get something that I was pretty sure he wouldn't have, and I wanted to get him something odd or quirky, because I know he has a broad taste in comic books. And this is, Omega the Unknown was a superhero comic, but for its time, it was very strange and defied the regular expectations of superhero comics. And then, I watched Gambit 896. I've got his numbers wrong. Gambit Ben, over in England. I've watched a lot of his videos already, and I pretty much decided that there's no way I could get him anything modern that he might not have read, because he has very good taste and he's read a lot of the great stuff already. So I decided to go. He reads entirely graphic novels, so I decided to get him some Silver Age books. And as I was thumbing through the comic book store, I was looking at Thor's, and this series of Thor with Mangog jumped out at me, because as a long time ago I had the Treasury edition with that series, and I just always thought it was one of the most exciting Silver Age Thor storylines. So, and I was able to get that at a price I could afford and send that to him in England. And with Mr. Adrian, whose videos I recommend, not many people, I think, have discovered him yet. And he's kind of a slow burn. He does longer videos, and it takes a while. Speaking of taking a while, have I gone on for 20 minutes already? Crap. So he's like that. He goes on for at least 20 minutes. And it takes him a while to warm up and everything, just like in a regular conversation. But there's good stuff in his videos, and I highly recommend them. So I'd seen how much he loved Marvels, and I hadn't seen him mention Kingdom Come, which to me has a similar vibe, mostly because of the Alex Ross art, and a very good series. And I was able to nab the full Kingdom Come series, so I sent him that, plus the recent Tarzan, what's it called? Tarzan Immortal or something like that. That just blew my mind, and I wanted to share it with somebody, so I bought an extra copy. And he seemed like the perfect guy to send that to. And then with J.J. Speros, he's really excited about Spider-Man, and a younger reader. I totally see why he would be excited by Spider-Man now. But I thought, he's unlikely to have read a lot of the John Romita Spider-Man. So I went out and same day when I was at the comic book store, I found some issues I could afford that were in a row from the John Romita period. So I sent that to him. And anyway, the whole point of all this actually is that it was a very gratifying experience. Probably my best, even though I then ended up not sending out the presents till sometime in January. Probably my best Christmas shopping experience, where I was able to buy things that I was quite excited that people would like. And lo and behold, they did like them. They all made really nice videos about them. So I will list the videos below. And you should check all these guys out. I hope JJ, keeps making his reviews. He's a really great reviewer. I'm pretty sure Mr. Addy's in there for the long run. Mr. 80. And I know that Gambit and Ben and Travis are in there for the long run. So, okay, one last thing. Today I was driving. My wife and I separated, and she was off with the kid. We were meeting with her sister, and we were over in Vancouver. Vancouver, Washington is kind of a sort of a twin city of Portland, Oregon, but much smaller. And her sister lives over there, and so we go over there just to see her sister. But I was in a part of Vancouver I'd never been before, and lo and behold, there was a shop called I Like Comics. So I had free time. I went in. It was a really nice shop. Had giant 50-cent bins, and lots of other cool back issues, and tons of toys and figures and great graphic novel selection. So I definitely sad it's a little far away, but I'm definitely going to go back there when I feel ready to spend more money on back issues. I spent a lot of money just recently on that big Spider-Man book. But I did buy some back issues there. One was one of these, packs where they give you the complete run of a miniseries, a Machine Man miniseries. I think that this is the Machine Man done by Herb Trimpe and Barry Windsor Smith. So I always wanted to get my hands on that. It was $5 for 4 issues. Hopefully that's what it is. I just came home from there. And then they had huge 50-cent bins with all kinds of sort of obscure stuff in it, including Marvel Fanfare, which I'd forgotten completely about until a couple months ago. Tim Howlermouse did a video where he showed a bunch of Marvel Fanfares that he'd picked up cheaply somewhere. So these are all from a 50-cent bin. I guess at one point they were $2.50. So I've got Marvel Fanfare 11 and 12. This is also, Marvel Fanfare is also from an early period of the blossoming of the direct market to comic shops. It was one of the early comics that was marketed directly to comic shops. That's why it has no, the computer code thing there. Because at the time, the comic book shops didn't need the computer code. So, and then I got 19, 20... 21. So this was when one of the early things when they were experimenting with better paper and aiming things directly at what they thought the fan market wanted rather than the general readership, so for a slightly older, slightly more into comics kind of thing. Thus they even have the picture of the editor in the little box up here. Which editor was that? Is that Al Milgrom, I think? Also in the 50-cent box, which I would have paid more for, Magnus Robot Fighter versus Nexus. Because I love anything with Nexus in it. Especially, I'll have to look inside if it's drawn by Steve Rude, who is definitely one of the 80s art gods for me. Still is when you find work by him. He's brilliant. And then I paid a little more. They have a clever marketing thing at this comic book store everything in their more valuable comic book long boxes, back issues, says it's 50% off. So at 50% off, it's a reasonable price, but it's clever marketing. So I got some Kamandis. I've given up on trying to find Kamandis cheaply. Everybody's cottoned on now that Kamandis are in demand, and at least in the stores around here. So and then part of the trick and just stumbling across the stores, I can't remember which Kamandis I have and which I don't. So hopefully I only got Kamandis I don't have. So I got Kamandi 33. No, that's Kamandi 30. Kamandi 33. Kamandi 38, which I believe, I'm quite sure is still Jack Kirby art on the inside, with Jerry Conway doing the writing, but Kirby doing the art. And then 44 will not be Kirby art anymore. And 45. So these ranged, their sticker prices were between $6 and $16. So I paid between $8 and $3 for them. And I'm okay with that because I want all the Kirbys. I love having the Kirbys digitally, which I have the first 20. That's all they've got. I want to have all the individual issues. I mean, I said Kirby's Kamandis. I want to have all the individual Kamandi issues. And I would love if they eventually do a large size format reprint book of them on good paper stock. I would be there paying good money for it. I like to savor my Kamandi in all different ways. So anyways, guys, that's my overly long vlog. Thank you to everyone who's stuck all the way through. And I guess my little contest proved to me that at least 24 people stuck all the way through my long, rambling, seemingly boring vlog. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.